this interview is really intended to help women out there understand more about men. That's been one of the things that I've enjoyed most in my work, Troy, even though I work exclusively with women.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've found that has really helped me in my work with women is interviewing hundreds of men in my man panel events and stuff like that over the years, because then I can help women understand more about men as they're dating them, getting to know them, and establishing relationships with them. So if you will, what I want to do today in our interview is just kind of dance through the initial stages of kind of meeting a man, dating, and some of the things that women may not understand or know in that phase. And then as we move into the relationship and marriage phase or long-term relationship committed phase, some of the things that you think would be important for women to know.
Absolutely.
So we're tapping into your masculine wisdom here. It's going to be awesome.
Let's do it.
So let's start with the like initial meeting, dating phase. What are some of the things that you think would be important for women to understand or know about men in that phase, recognizing that men, like women, are all individuals, but there's certainly some themes here.
In the dating space, it's tricky because things have evolved so much, right? Dating used to be traditional dating was different. There was a lot of courting, and things of that nature. Now people have so many ways to get access to other people, right? I think the thing that we got to come back to though is that ladies can't just show up, right? And I think what's happened because of social media and because, people have been convinced, a lot of women have been convinced that if they just show up and they look pretty, then that's enough when they're dating. And honestly, because men are evolving too, men are looking for connection as well, right? Not just you showing up and sitting there and being the receiver, which is okay. That's a feminine nature thing. But there has to be some reciprocity in the dating process. And I think that's what men are looking for more than ever, is because now, because women have evolved in such a way, what they need now is to feel like women are meeting them halfway in the dating space. And it's not just a matter of the man doing all the work all the time. Now, what does that look like? That doesn't have to look like you going to approach the guy and then asking him out on a date and all those things. It doesn't have to look like that at all. What it looks like is if I plan the date, right? If I plan the date, if I tell you where we're going, if I take the initiative, all the things you want a masculine man to do, that you just say thank you and you're gracious, right? That's a part of this, that you say that you can receive, but also have grace. There's also this idea of, what if I pay for the meal and you leave the tip, right? So it shows that you're invested in this. You're not just sitting there hoping to receive every single thing. I think men the downside right now is men are trying to decipher through the space of who's genuinely for me. Right? Who genuinely wants to be here with me? Not just who wants to get a free meal or be entertained by me. Now, see, I think that's where the battle and the tug of war is. So I think the word to come out of all this is just reciprocation. It's reciprocation. So I want ladies to know that it's okay to reciprocate effort and energy.
This is so interesting, Troy, and I'm so glad that we're diving in here, because I think this is a confusing thing for both men and women in so many ways. Because, I'm a little older than you are. Most of the women that I work with are 40s, 50s, 60s, right? A little more mature. And yes, maybe we grew up in a time where we really did expect men to do all the courting and the dating and initiating. And I think in many ways, a lot of women prefer that. Like, a man with a plan is pretty sexy, right? We like that because it makes us feel special. It makes us feel taken care of. It makes us feel like we can be secure with this person, like he has some idea about where he's going, not just for a date, but in life. I think there's some real reasons that women like that. And yet, I totally get what you're saying, where I think men right now, I loved the way you said it, where you said men are looking like who's here for me, who's for me here, like not just there for to be entertained or to have someone take care of them and pay their way or provide them with a nice dinner, but like, is this someone, I think you're saying, that could be potentially a partner with me, that can be my advocate, that can really be there with me. Is that more of what we're saying here too, as well as the appreciation, acknowledgement for the effort and for what a man is providing?
Yep, you're spot on, right? I think it's a matter of, it went from, it kind of, the pendulum kind of swang, right? So men were kind of trained as older men to take the lead on everything, but now some men are saying, "Can I take my cape off sometimes?" Right? Can I just get a genuine connection with someone that's not performative? Because otherwise, dating becomes very performative for a man. It's like, I got to do all these things to perform for you, to make you feel good about the potential of liking me. When what men are saying is, on the front end, can I know that you're at least genuine, that you are genuinely interested in me? I don't have to perform for your attention, affection, and love, right? And so I think that's where it's almost like this idea of, let's just meet halfway. Because what we got to think about, Michelle, is women are evolving in every other space of life.
Right.
But then they only want this part of it to be traditional. You see? So it's like men are confused. They're like, oh, but that might be disrespectful to think that I'm going to just take control of the situation and plan everything and do all these things. That she might be put off by that. So if you have a genuine connection that's really based on a give and a take, then I think that becomes more genuine.
Mm-hmm. So besides, I think this is so important. So besides a woman being gracious, being appreciative, acknowledging, and being reciprocal in certain ways, what are some other ways that a man would feel that that's a connection, or that is someone that is, as you said, there for him? Like, is there for him. If you're saying, because I do think that a lot of women don't necessarily think that men are necessarily seeking a connection, or at least not in the same way. Maybe they're looking for a hookup or a sexual connection. But what you're talking about goes beyond that. It's a deeper kind of connection, if I'm hearing you right.
No, you're hearing me right. I think it's little things, right? Connection is created in the margins, is what I call it. Right. So it's sometimes, can you send the first text? Can you initiate the phone call? Right. If we've gone on 3-4 dates, can you now plan one? Right. It's the marginal things. It's, can you pay me a compliment every once in a while? At least let me feel like I'm desired as well. All right. Because men don't hear compliments. They don't hear stuff like that. We walk around hoping that a woman likes us back. And that hoping is tiring. So men are just saying, just give me a little bit, right? So you know how for example, when a guy texts you, or texts one of the ladies that you're talking about, and you brighten up and you smile because you're like, oh, I'm hearing from my guy today. Well, if you brighten, guys are getting brighter if they get a text from the girl first, or from the woman first, right? So little stuff like that is what adds up over time, you know? So to me, that's what it's about. Also, little things like, you know, when men talk about things they like, and men talk about things that they desire, are you listening enough to actually do something about it? So if I say I love to read, could you show up at a date with a book, right? If I say I love music, could you buy me my favorite record if we're consistently dating? Men just want to feel considered and thought about. It's not that we need women to take the lead. We just need some reciprocal energy.
Yeah, I want to come back to this whole idea of the paying thing, because I think this is another area that gets confusing, just for a second here. So in my dating experience, I always loved it when a man planned and paid for at least the first couple of dates, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
agree.
Without me pulling out my purse, without me paying for a tip or whatever. Now, I do like to think that I was appreciative and thanked him and was gracious. But I always liked that, again, because it comes back to this idea of, like, it felt like I was being kind of taken care of, and that he cared enough to plan something and execute something. That having been said, my pattern was that if I went out with a man for a few times, 3-4 times, he planned the dates, paid for the dates, then I would do something reciprocal. I would plan a date and pay for a date. Like, for example, with my husband and I, we'd gone out a number of times. He'd taken me on some really nice dates. And then I had, before I'd even met him, bought these tickets to this Michael Bublé concert. I had these great tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just invited him to go with me. And I said, this night will just be my treat. So I paid for the dinner. I had already bought the tickets. We went on this really fun date and I treated him and he loved that. Mm-hmm. And so that felt like it felt balanced to me. I feel for me, and I want to hear your feedback on this. For me, it always felt awkward to go like, should I pull out my purse? Should I offer some money? Should I like that always felt like so weird to me. But I'd like to hear your take on that just for a little more clarification.
Yeah, I think the effort of attempting to pay still means something. I think there is something too in the first few dates, allowing yourself to be taken care of. Because most men, if they really like you, will take care of you. It's when it consistently starts to be like, okay, she never even offers, she never even adds any value to the dates. That's when it's like, am I being used? Right? Am I being appreciated? Those types of things, right? So for me, I don't think it's awkward at all because you got to think, women now are saying, I don't need you to take care of me. Right. I have my own things, which is okay. That's that evolution, that progressiveness is awesome. But you have to back that up in some ways. Right? You have to back that up. You can't live this high lifestyle over here, but then over here when the dating space, it's like you don't have anything or you can't contribute to it. So I think that's where, you got to kind of do that dance.
Yeah. And I want you to say a little more. This is something else that you said. There's so many gems here already, Troy. I'm like diving in here. I want you to say a little bit more about this whole performative thing, because that's one thing that I've heard occasionally from my husband is he says, like, men, he's like, we're under a lot of pressure. He's like, our value is based on what we produce. He's like, for women, you are seen as having like this intrinsic value, whether you're producing or not. But he's like, show me a man without a job and see how much he's respected in society, right? And I'm like, wow, I'm kind of getting that, right? Like, he's like, you have to understand that for a man, we are constantly feeling like we're sized up or valued based on what we're producing. And that kind of goes along, I think, with this whole performative thing. And then along those lines, I'll just say this and then I'll let you jump in here. I've also tell me if this is true. I've also had some men that have said to me over the years, as men, we only have like 2 or 3 great date ideas, and then we're kind of out of date ideas. So it would help if you kind of helped come up with some great ideas and fun things to do.
Yeah, no, this is good. Let me take the latter question first around the date ideas. So we have access to information now. So men, you have no excuse to not be able to plan decent dates. You have ChatGPT, you have Google, you have social media. You can find ways to be creative. Now, what I will say is most women that have been with a man a long time understand that men are very habitual people, like creatures of habit that tend to do the same things. So we like simple things, right? But for women, they like newness, right? It makes them happier. It makes them feel, valued and things of that nature. So that's another part of meeting me halfway. Is saying, what if, hey, babe, I'll plan this unique date that I thought about. Can you sponsor it? Right? Can you pay for it? That's fine. It's just like men want to sometimes not have to think so hard to be performative, which leads me to the next point, which is the idea of being performative as a man. Your husband is absolutely right. Most men walk around from being little kids, little boys, thinking that everything has to be performative for them. What you produce. Men are appreciated for what they produce. Women are just acknowledged for who they are. Right? And I think that's a problem in society in a lot of ways, right? It's like if you don't have something, then you don't have a lot of value. Now, my challenge to men here is there's a such thing as relational value that you have to develop as a man, as we become more progressive, right? You have to have relational value. You have to have intrinsic value. You have to think of yourself as a whole person and not just a producer. And you have to be able to share that value with women as well, right? And that also comes back to emotional capacity. So I challenge men on that. I know how they feel because I have felt that way. But at the end of the day, you got to bring something else, because even if all you do is perform and produce, if you can't do those other things, you'll still lose a woman. Right? Mm-hmm. You'll still lose her because she won't feel connected to you. right? So I think we have to challenge ourselves to do it differently. And I also challenge women in this way. And I say, look, you cannot ask men to become evolved in other ways beyond production and performance and then punish them for when they do, right? So when they become full emotional beings, when they become emotionally intelligent and vulnerable and relational and all those things, you can't now see them and view them as weak. You also can't take that away from them when they don't have something to provide. If I get laid off, right? If I'm out of work for a couple months or whatever, do you treat me differently? Do you see me differently? Are you less attracted to me now? Right. So there's some work to be done on both sides around this performative piece of manhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, that's so interesting. My husband and I went through a period of time where he lost his position and was unemployed for a period of time. And I could tell it was just incredibly, incredibly difficult for him. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that became really clear to me during that period of time was how important it was for me to continue to believe in him. Mm-hmm. To look beyond the moment where, maybe he's feeling a bit down and out, mm-hmm. and trust that he's going to get back again to where he wants to be, to where he feels like he needs to be. And, I'll just tell you a little funny bit about that too, Troy. This is something that I also learned during that experience. So when this first happened, I was like, quote unquote, helping him, right? I was like doing all these searches online. I'm sending him all these leads for all these jobs, and I'm doing all this kind of stuff. And I was kind of coaching him, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. On how I kind of thought this whole job search thing should go. Mm-hmm. And I was confused, Troy, because he didn't seem to be appreciating it a whole lot. And I'm like, mm-hmm. thinking, here, I'm putting in all this effort to try mm-hmm. to help him. He doesn't seem to be appreciating it. So one day I said to him, honey, Benjamin, what can I do that would most help you at this time? And he said, just believe in me and trust me that I'm going to get this done.
That's it. Because the way it could be taken is that you are pressuring me to now get a job faster, mm-hmm. right? When sometimes I just need you to be supportive. And so I think an important question to ask is, what does support look like to you in this season? Right?
Mm-hmm. Love that question.
If we don't ask those types of questions, then we have assumptions, and it could be doing the opposite of what it is that you want it to do. So I love that story from you. And I think a lot of women have probably been through that, where they thought they were being supportive, but they really made him feel like he was being condemned almost, right? So,
right. Yeah. Well, I do think it made him feel like I didn't think he was doing it right, which mm-hmm. truthfully, Troy, I kind of didn't. I thought he should be doing it a little differently.
Absolutely.
So, because I was like thinking, okay, if I'm in this situation, this is how I'm going to handle it. Well, his way of approaching things was a little different than mine. And it wasn't necessarily wrong. It was just different, right?
It was just different. Mm-hmm.
And he got the result he needed. But when he told me that, I thought, okay, I need to back off from my help mm-hmm. and allow him to do it in his way, which then he did a whole lot better, actually, after I got out of the business of helping. So it's kind of interesting. And when he just said, I just need you to believe in me and trust me that I'm going to get this done, I'm like, okay, I got it. But that was a big learning message for me, because I really thought I was helping.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah. So just that power of believing in a man. And I think that comes back to this whole idea that it's all tied together of a man having value above and beyond his performance. Mm-hmm. And his production value and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're saying that. I hope everybody is watching is hearing that, right? Is that we need to be seen as a comprehensive human. That's the only way that we will evolve and see ourselves that way, right? We have to be able to see ourselves that way because people appreciate that we are that way, right? So I think that's a key to bridging the gap between men and women.